how has ChatGPT benefited you guys so far in your work/life? Kyle Vanderveld said, how will AI change the coffee world specifically in Coffee with Kimmy? How are you integrating AI into your business, and how do you see it scaling in the future? So a lot of very similar questions. I will say this, I'm not an AI wizard. I'm still learning, I'm still growing, and I think I just had my epiphany where a lot of things clicked. I went from being this cool like tech software to all of a sudden being, oh wait, this is not only cool but extremely practical. And so how has ChatGPT benefited you guys so far in your work and life? Not very much, but it has changed how I'm thinking about things already. It's changed how I see things, how I see tasks, and think about the internet in the future of what business with AI looks like. I mean, we talked a little bit about it, like what happens when you can ask ChatGPT where the best Ethiopian is, or in town, or what happens when ChatGPT knows exactly your flavor preferences in coffee, and how automatically when you're in a new town it finds coffee for you already. Like stuff like that, that's like changing how I'm thinking about things. And so how will it that's the next one. But how will AI change the coffee world specifically? I think it'll change how we roast coffee, how we source coffee. It's going to change the entire supply chain. It's going to change even how we brew coffee. I think once we get, coffee's always lagging in tech, but once we get the tech and the machines to work with AI, I think it's crazy stuff is going to happen. The concept of dialing in manually, I think will be done.
Yep.
I think the bar flow will change completely. I think we'd actually go into a very automatic world, even though a lot of us don't want that, but it's going to be so much more seamless, and it's going to improve the coffee experience so much higher. And imagine it's going to also change roasting. Imagine if you can train an AI model based off of Rob Hoose's roasting approach, and then ask ChatGPT or AI, ask, hey, how would Rob roast this coffee?
Yeah.
And then it would give you exactly what you need to, and it would be exactly like him. Like that stuff like that is mind-boggling that it could do that. But it's not out of this world. It's like it's very feasible. So stuff like that.
I think one of the ways that AI in general, the way I'm thinking about AI, it's more about like connection, and in the sense that AI will connect us to more data and will kind of bridge that gap and help us understand things. But also, obviously, if it's artificial intelligence, it has quote unquote a mind of its own. I think that could also be this is the sketch part, but beneficiary to how we make decisions in general in business, because we'll have almost like another mind, but not separate of our mind, because it'll be connected to a lot of our data and understanding, that it'll almost quote unquote two minds will think better than one, in a sense, that concept. So one, roasting, that's the main thing that I was thinking about when you were talking, is how implementing all of the information that we have, not only about roasting, but about green coffee, and asking ChatGPT or asking AI to come up with solutions that because we don't have access to all that information, we can't even make those connections.
Well, actually, like a lot of what's happening right now in the medical field is that they're generating specific like vaccines and solutions to issues because of an AI model that can run different pair that with a supercomputer, like it's running so many different models that for us to experiment with all those would take years and years. So it's expediting a lot of those things. So instead of having to experiment with roast, and we throw some roasts away, or, with coffee and whatever, whether that's from the farmer side, experimenting with processing, or from the roasting or the dialing in. Now, if AI has enough data to solve those issues and run a bunch of experiments internally in its brain or in the hardware, imagine it just spits out the right answer all the time. And you don't need to guess, is this going to taste good? Is this not? You can just give it parameters and it can tell you what you're looking for without needing to go through the trial and error of finding the optimal.
Yeah.
So I think it'll change it a lot, like insanely, especially coffee, because I think we're still so young as an industry and we have so much room to grow that adding such a big curveball in there will be insane.
Yeah. I one thought I have, and I don't want to stick around here because, again, I don't know enough to give a very formal answer to this. But where my mind goes to is, if you're a consumer, this will also help you find the coffee that you absolutely enjoy.
Yes.
And then if you're a home barista on top of that, if you're a home barista that is a consumer, of course, you can now, or possibly in the future, input, hey, this is how I like to brew coffee. You don't even have to say like the best way to brew this coffee. You basically say, hey, let's say I brew V60s with 1 pulse. And AI can help you find a coffee that will fit that style of brewing. Because it'll know the solubility levels of it, it'll know the development, it'll know the flavor profile that matches that brew the best. It'll give you exactly like what you want.
And it'll give you exactly the grind setting to use.
Right.
And microns.
Well, it already knows your grinder, let's
everything.
say. Yeah, because
it's insane.
That data is inputted.
And I'll last thought also, it'll actually change. A lot of these things are scary because they're going to replace a lot of things. And you're wondering, well, if everybody's going to be roasting great coffee or serving great coffee, what's left? Is it everything's going to be the same? Actually, I think it's actually going to up the experience.
Yeah.
So coffee will be specifically tasting the way specifically the owner or the person who runs the cafe exactly wants it, which will differ depending on where you go. But it'll also increase the experience. So we're going to have to think about, okay, all of a sudden, if we're more productive and we're doing less work and things being done, that means we'll have more time to focus on other things, and we're going to have to focus on an extraordinary coffee experience.
Yeah.
It's going to be insane.
Yeah.
Imagine if one barista can crush through a rush easy with the help of AI. So what do you do then?
Yeah, you serve people better.
It's going to be insane.
Yeah, it'll open up so much more room for preference, because my thought is like personalizations and like preference. It'll actually open like Pandora's box for that. It'll be so next level that this is crazy to think, you'll actually desire more.
Yes.
Not less. It'll open up so much more space for desire. Similar 100%. To like when the Tiffany Co., we've been talking about the Tiffany Co. sneakers, right? The Air Force, they're just Air Force Ones, but they're not just Air Force Ones. Yeah. And that's kind of the concept behind it.
1000%. And it'll be so much more profitable and easier for cafes.
Okay.
Which is finally going to be the case. Anyways, Coffee with Kimmy, how are you integrating AI into your business? How do you see it scaling in the future? This way, we just answered that. But how am I integrating it right now into our business? Not quite yet, but I already have plans. There's going to be some stuff coming up that we're going to start experimenting with here in the very near future. So be on the lookout for that. So, but probably it's going to help us write some blogs. It's going to help us create content, streamline the content process, which takes a lot of time. Like this podcast takes a lot of time. Yeah. Not that AI is going to be doing the podcast, but there's other things. So